The vent is a separate pattern which is different from the two-piece sleeve. This has to be a standalone first before going to the construction of the vent. So which is the next step I will be showing you now. So guys, now that we have the upper sleeve and the under sleeve separated, the next step is to construct the vent area. In constructing the vent area, I will put aside the under sleeve and I will be working on the upper sleeve first, so which I've laid on a fresh pattern paper. As you can see, the way I position my sleeve pattern, I have a space at the upper part of about 1 inch. I have about 2 inches at the lower part, and I have about 2 to 2.5 inches by the side of the pattern. So this is the back side of the sleeve and this is the front side of the sleeve. Now that I have this done, the next step is to measure out the vent length. The standard measurement for the suit sleeve vent is 4.5 inches. Whether you are drafting the pattern for a male figure or a female figure, the standard measurement is 4.5 inches, and I will be taking the measurement from the M line. From the M line upward, I will measure 4.5 inches. Don't forget, I'm working on the upper sleeve first. Then on that point, I will square the line outward. I took the measurement on the back side of the sleeve. This is the front side and this is the back side. Then for the wideness of the vent is 1.5 inches on the upper sleeve. So from this point, I will measure 1.5 inches forward. Then I will take this measurement downward. Okay, so on this line as well, I will measure 1.5 inches. Okay, so now I have 1.5 inches here and 1.5 inches here. Then the next step is to connect the 2 points together, and I'm having it as a straight line. Okay, so now that I have it like this, I'm not leaving the vent allowance like so. So I will be working on this area in order to remove the bulkiness of the fabric when constructing the sleeve. So what I will be doing is, on this side, don't forget from here to here is 4.5 inches. So on this side, I will reduce the measurement by ½ inch. So instead of 4.5 inches here, I will measure 4 inches upwards. So which means what I have from here, I will take away ½ inch from that. So then I will connect the 2 points together like this. This is the 4.5 inches point, and this point is 4 inches. Then I will have my vent line in a slant manner, so it's not going to be on a straight line. You can see what I have. So with this, I will cross this out. So again, from the M line, by the side of the sleeve, the back side of the sleeve, from the M line to this point is 4.5 inches. Then I square this outward by 1.5 inches. Then from this 1.5 inches point to this point is the same 4.5 inches. Then I subtracted ½ inch from the 4.5 inches downward, which gives me this point. Then I connected the ½ inch point to the point I have here. So which means from this point to this ½ inch point is 4 inches. Then from here to here is 4.5 inches. So guys, after constructing the vent area, the next step is to construct the buttonhole placement. Okay, so in doing this, from the roll line, this is the roll line, so that is the rail line of the sleeve, which is the back side area. So from this point, I will measure half of an inch forward, which I have the line on my pattern already, so which is here. So which means the buttonhole will be half of an inch away from the edges of the sleeve. So this is the vent length point. I extended the line to the half of an inch point. So from this point, I will measure 1 inch downward. So this point is the first buttonhole placement. Then I will extend this inward. This is coming inward. You can see what I have. And the wideness is going to be about 0.75, as this also has to do with the size of your button. So this is the first placement. Then from the hem line, I will measure 1 inch or 1 inch and 1/4 upward. So let's make use of 1 inch and 1/4. 1 inch, 1 inch and 1/4 is here. So that is the second placement. Then I will take the measurement I have left in between the two mark points, and I will share it for the remaining 2 buttonholes. So whatever I have left, I will share it equally for the remaining 2 buttonholes. So now I've shared the remaining space I have for the remaining 2 buttonholes. So this is the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Then I will square the lines outward. Okay guys, so now I have this done. The vent area has been plotted properly and the buttonholes placement. So the next step is to add seam allowances all around the pattern. Don't forget, when I was drafting this pattern, I did not add any seam allowance yet. Now I will be adding half of an inch of seam allowance on the sleeve edge, half of an inch by the front side of the sleeve, and half of an inch by the back side of the sleeve. Then on the hem line, which is the wrist area, I will be measuring 1.5 inches as the hem allowance. Now let's do this. Guys, now I have my seam allowances added all around the pattern. On the sleeve edge, I added half of an inch. You can see what I have. Then I square this outward like so. Then by the side, half of an inch. So the connection is from the sleeve edge point, don't forget, to the elbow point, because this is no more on a perfect straight line. Then from the elbow point downward to the wrist, which is here, from here to here is half of an inch. Okay, then on the back side of the sleeve, from this edge, half of an inch to this point. On the elbow point, from here to this place is half of an inch. Then I connected this to the elbow point with a straight roller. Then here, which is the vent length point, I added half of an inch of seam allowance. So that was why I raised this up higher. So if I should take this measurement now, I will have 5 inches. Don't forget, I measured 4.5 inches as a vent length, but because I will be closing this part, I needed half of an inch of seam allowance, so I took this up by half of an inch here. Then I connected from the half of an inch seam allowance I have on the elbow point to the vent point. So that was why I extended this downward like so. You can see what I have. Then at the edges of the vent allowance, I also added half of an inch. So in total now I have 2 inches for the vent allowance. So the remeasurement is 1.5 inches, and I added half of an inch of seam allowance, and I have 2 inches. So that was how I arrived at this, in case it looks complex to you. It's a very simple, it just look complex like so. half of an inch here, half of an inch here, then half of an inch here. So now let's move to the hem line of the sleeve. Please, this part is very important. You have to pay a closer attention. On the hem line, I added 1.5 inches as the hem allowance. From the fold line of the sleeve, which is the real measurement of the sleeve, on the wrist area, I measured 1.5 inches downward, and I have it marked here. Then I extended this outward to the half of an inch seam allowance. Don't forget, this is a real measurement, so from here to here I'm having half of an inch of seam allowance. Let me draw out the line for better understanding. Okay, so this is the real line, the fold line downward to the hem line. So from here to here is seam allowance of half of an inch. From here to here also is seam allowance of half of an inch. Now to the back side of the sleeve, this is the roll line which I extended downward here. So from here to here is 1.5 of hem allowance. Now let's move to the vent area of the sleeve. On the vent area as well, downward, I extended the line I have here purposely because this is no more on a straight line. The measurement I have from here to here is different from the measurement I have from here to here. So I extended the hem allowance line forward to the vent point, like so. From the roll line of the sleeve, which is here, I extended the line forward to the vent allowance point. Then I have it like so. So you can see what I have. So now this is the exact point we are going to, in order not to have unnecessary excess inside the sleeve which can cause bulkiness. So we have to work around this area. So that is the hem allowance that falls on the vent area. It starts from here. So you can see what I have. Just look at my ruler here, like this, then like this. So we have to eradicate these parts in order to avoid bulkiness. So this can be achieved in two ways. I can decide to remove this completely, then add my seam allowance of half of an inch, which I will show you right now. So if I'm taking this away, you can see the square line I have here. If I'm taking this away completely, I will clean this up. So when I'm cutting out my pattern, I will not cut all through to the point. So if I've been seeing this shape on a blazer sleeve pattern, this is how it was achieved. So now this is what I'm having. You can see I clean this up and I clean this up. Then here I will measure half of an inch forward, half of an inch downward, half of an inch here as well. Then I will connect these together like so. Then here I will take this forward also by half of an inch. So I will extend this forward by half of an inch. This is half of an inch here, half of an inch here, then half of an inch here. So if I want to cut this out, I will be cutting along this side. When I cut from the sleeve edge downward, when I get to the vent point, I will cross this like so. I will take it downward. When I get to this point also, I will cross here. When I get to this point, I will take it downward. Then from this point, I'll come to the other side of the sleeve and I will cut all through. So that is if I want to shape the vent area like so. So this is the first method I'm showing you. This step is very important. Please do not skip the step so that you will not have a bulkiness of fabric inside your sleeve. So if I don't want to do it this way, I can also achieve it by drawing back my line So I'm drawing back the M allowance line I cleaned up earlier. You can choose any of the two methods, any one you find convenient for yourself. Okay, so I'll be cleaning up the seam allowance I have here. Okay, let me just leave it. So I have the line drawn back. As you can see, it has been drawn back. So I will just connect from the side of the sleeve. This is the back side. This is the rim measurement. You can see the point I have here. Then I will connect it downward to the edge of the vent point, like so. Now I have the line drawn out. You can see the shape I have. Connection from the side of the sleeve, which is the fold line, to the edge of the vent. So this is the real line of the vent. If I add the vent on the 1.5 inches point before adding a seam allowance, can you see this is what I have? And from here to here is half of an inch. So I connected from here to here. You can see what I have here. Then I will take this forward by half of an inch, so which is going to be the seam allowance. So I have it here. From here as well, half of an inch. And I will square it outward.